Florida State's a big physical team. Caused some serious matchup problems for Gonzaga tonight.
They did. Without Killian Tilly, it was even more exaggerated because Jonathan Williams and Rui Hashimura were just overwhelmed inside tonight. So it was tough. When the Zags couldn't hit their outside threes, it just made it that much more difficult. They struggled from the outside, and it was just a tough night all the way around.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks very much.
You bet.
Well, the disappointment, of course, being felt all across Spokane and even for the fans in L.A.
That's right. Sports director Darnay Tripp and Evan Klosky live from the Staples Center tonight with more reaction on tonight's loss. Hi, guys.
A disappointing finish to what can only be described as a very successful season for Gonzaga here in the Staples Center. Evan, so much of these NCAA tournament games come down to matchups. Florida State is simply a matchup nightmare. And when you take out a player in Killian Tilly, whose strengths would serve Gonzaga very well in a matchup against a team like Florida State, makes for a very, very difficult proposition. Seminoles were able to take advantage of those strengths, and that's why this one went the way it did tonight.
Look, no one in that locker room is making any excuses saying that if Tilly was on the floor, that would have changed the result. We just don't know that. But what we do know is that Killian Tilly would have made a difference in this game, and we can break down all the X's and O's of how that would have happened. But that is a big blow and an unexpected blow, as it just happened on Tuesday in a practice. A fluke injury, Mark Few said. And that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, and a lot of other people had to step up.
Yeah, we'll have more on Tilly in a moment, reaction from him and Mark Few. But Few had an interesting comment yesterday talking about this big physical Florida State team, basically saying they hadn't really faced anybody with the physical tools that this Seminoles squad has. Hard to believe when you consider the teams that they've taken on through the years, but you see it as soon as the teams were on the floor, and really Gonzaga was out of sorts from the jump offensively. It took them a while to kind of adjust to the Seminoles size 2 7-footers, lots of big burly guys in the 6'6" to 6'8" range. And they never really, Evan, got into a rhythm offensively. There were stretches, but it gave them trouble all night long.
Yeah, 11 different players scored points for Florida State. And that depth is really what proved to be the difference. I mean, you're looking up and down the statistical box score right now, and the most one player played for Florida State was 33 minutes. Well, Gonzaga had 5 players play 30-plus minutes. This was a physical game, and just the wear and tear for a team to perform offensively and defensively like Gonzaga. They worked their butts off on the defensive end, but it showed on the offensive end how tired they were.
Yeah, how about bench points? 30-6 advantage for Florida State. Other numbers, 9 block shots, 8 steals for Florida State. Just wreaked havoc on Gonzaga defensively. Zags 13 turnovers to 7 assists. Neither team really shot a good percentage, but a difficult night offensively, and that ended up dooming the Zags in this one. They talked about it after the game. Just how difficult Florida State made life for them tonight.
You know, they did a great job of pressuring you and keeping the ball out of Perk's hands. So we worked on initiating offense with other guys all week. But again, we had opportunities. We had a lot of baskets or a lot of shots right around the rim that we didn't finish that I think we'd like to have back, and a couple open threes and a couple decisions with the ball. I think when the game was still in the balance, when it was around 5 or 6, we could have done a little better job with.
It was really tough. You know, they were really athletic tonight. They were able to, you know, capitalize on our mistakes. And like you said, they just adjusted every shot at the rim if they didn't block it.
It just made life really tough on us, you know. And there was points where we could, you know, we were crawling back and we were gaining some traction. They just were tough, and took that right away from us. So, I mean, they were a really good team, and wish them the best of luck going forward.
Just trying to make shots. You know, we didn't really turn the ball over that much. And when we did, you know, they scored transitionally. But just make shots. You know, we missed some easy ones around the rim. And me and Snacks missed some easy threes that we usually make high. We definitely feel it because, you know, it was a winnable game. And when it's that close, you know, it hurts deep.
Gonzaga certainly didn't look like themselves tonight, and they weren't themselves. From the very beginning, of course, the news right at tip-off that Killian Tilly would not be available with a hip injury. The initial tweet from TBS's Dana Jacobson said that it was re-aggravated from a previous injury. We talked to Killian. He had an injury on Tuesday in practice, described as a hip pointer, was not a previous injury, but it kept him from playing tonight. He, Mark Few, obviously disappointed with him not being able to suit up against Florida State this evening.
I tried everything during warm-ups and everything. Was feeling good the first 5 minutes of warm-ups, and then on drive just go worse, way worse, and so I couldn't play.
We were hoping with some treatment and some rest that it would kick back in. It was basically a hip pointer, and he just couldn't jump and he couldn't move. He could not go. He's a tough kid. I mean, a really tough kid, and was devastated. So that's a coach's worst nightmare, you know, to happen to practice before you come down here.
I mean, it's tough. It's hard. Like just being on the bench, not being able to go on the court and just help them, you know, everything, and it was just very tough.
Your heart breaks for Killian Tillie and any kid that's in that position. And the words from Mark Few simply saying he could not go. There was no question about it. Again, he tried to warm up before the game, give it a shot, but when he went up for a dunk, stretched it out, it just caused too much pain and unfortunately sidelined this evening for Gonzaga.
I just want to say there's a lot of anger on social media by the fact that Killian Tillie did not play. I would just please advise you not to be angry that he did not play. You can be frustrated because that's what Killian is, but I promise you, in the discussions that we've had with Mark Few, with the players, with Killian himself, he could not go. He was injured. It was a freak injury, which is what Mark Few said in the post-game press conference at the podium. And that is just what happens in sports, unfortunately, especially in the NCAA tournament. This is a big stage for him as well. There's nothing more that he wants to do than perform in the big stage, get his team to the Elite Eight, get that stage bigger and brighter like he had last year. And that was a big difference in the game. We mentioned, we don't know if the result would have changed, but it did change the complexion of how the team works.
It's a team with so much size, you could use that little extra size, the ability to stretch the floor, and then, of course, the depth piece, which you touched on as well. A team with so many bodies they can throw at you when you're playing shorthanded, that really hurts. Killian Tillie was emotional before the game. He was emotional in the locker room. And a Gonzaga team that really hasn't dealt with major injuries through the course of the season. You hate to have one rear its ugly head at this point in the year. So now the dust is settled. We kind of take inventory on everything. And you cannot describe the season, as I said off the top, as anything but a success. Look, hindsight is 20/20. You go back to November and look at the team and all they lost from last year. 8 players total, 4 key pieces to be back in the Sweet 16. Just been a phenomenal job. Mark Few and company, the way these teams, the players, I should say, developed, phenomenal to watch and a lot to be proud of from this squad.
32 wins, okay? 30-plus seasons just do not come very often for collegiate programs, not to mention back-to-back seasons, not to mention with what this team lost, with how they developed throughout the season, because in the middle of the year, if you told me that they made it to the Sweet 16, I would have said they peaked. Now, it's very disappointing, as we mentioned, that Tillie did not play because it feels like they had some more juice in them, that they had a bigger run left, especially with how crazy March went. But there is so much to take into the next season. This was a quote-unquote rebuilding year, a rebuilding year that was 32 wins and a Sweet 16 run. If everyone returns, that's including Rui Hachimura, Killian Tillie, Josh Perkins, who is more likely to be back than the other two. But nonetheless, everyone comes back with the experience of Zach Norvell, Corey Kispert, Jakob Larson, not to mention some coveted recruits, and Philip Petrusev, Brandon Clark, who's a redshirt. This team, to me, is a preseason top 10 squad. I would have to go through a lot of other teams to make sure that I can validate that. But holy smokes, I mean, they're really, really good next year, not to mention Joel Ayayi, who redshirted this whole year. So just a lot of things to be proud of and to take positive energy into the offseason. And, you know, this team loves to carry a chip on their shoulder, and they're just going to continue that.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Look, this one stings right now, but the players talked about it after the game. A lot to be happy about just in terms of what they've done since November.
To incur the losses we incurred last year after the national championship, and to get another WCC championship, to get another tournament championship, to get to a Sweet 16 and be the only team to do that 4 straight times is, I mean, an amazing accomplishment. So I think that says it all.
I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be criticizing us for losing to a 9 seed or anything like that, but that's not anything that we're going to hang our hat on. I mean, like I've been saying, 32 games, another 30-win season. That's impressive by coaching staff. That's impressive by all the players that's in his locker room. Another second weekend appearance. I mean, you can't ask for anything more out of a school from Spokane, Washington that nobody even knew about, in years past. So I mean, I'm very proud of all of us.
Silas, they've known about you for quite a long time, and the reputation just grows and grows every single year.
Yeah, and just the final takeaway is making it to the Final Four is really hard. Making it to this weekend is really hard. So, one, making it to the fourth straight Sweet 16, the only team actively to do that. And then two, just respecting what this team has done and really appreciating this squad and the accomplishments they had, even though everybody is sort of caught up in that national championship run of last year. I think there was a bit of a hangover from the fans a little bit from doing that. I'm hoping that this is sort of the kick in the butt saying, hey, remember, this is a tough thing to do, and moving forward, they'll be back.
Yeah, you always enjoy this ride until the bitter end. You want to make sure you enjoy it as much as you can because there's a lot to appreciate and to just enjoy the growth and the maturation of this team. It hurts when you look at the bracket to see teams like Loyola Chicago, K-State. I mean, you see the path seemingly opening up, but again, we said it before the game, there's a reason teams like Florida State are doing what they're doing this time of year. We saw it tonight. Of course, a disappointing end for Gonzaga's season, but I think as the dust settles, a lot for people to be proud of. Send it back to you guys in the studio.